hate the word clerk. Now, just changing their name doesn't make them better. We have to train them on how to be better, right? So I was a front desk clerk, front desk supervisor, front desk manager, and I was going to school for marketing and real estate. And all I knew in life at the time, I still hadn't figured out that hotels were for me forever, although I was having a lot of fun and learning a lot. I wanted a job. The only criteria I had was I didn't want to be stuck behind a desk. I knew that. And in real estate, you're out and about, you're doing appraisals and whatever else it is you do in real estate. So I went to school for real estate. And I applied for a position that I had been dreaming about for 3 years. The interview is going to go like this. He or she's going to say that, I'm going to say this. If they say something different, I'm going to play this interview over 1 billion times. I think I'm ready for almost anything that happens. I went out and got a suit, new tie, crappy shoes, but that's okay, we won't talk about those. And I show up for the interview. And the guy literally laughs in my face and says, "Son, come back when you eat more meat and potatoes." I'm driving to work in my car, and I'm thinking, what a waste of 4 years of my life going to school for this crap, and this is what I have to deal with. What am I going to do? What am I going to be? Oh, woe is me. The very same day, I show up to work at the front desk, and the general manager says, "Come here. You want to be in sales? We have an opening." The same day. The best of days, the worst of days. And I never looked back. Been in the hotel business ever since. Okay? So that's just one person's journey. From sales manager at that one hotel, I then became a Holiday Inn. I went from Marriott to Holiday Inn. Regional sales position in Minneapolis, selling Wisconsin and Minnesota hotels. And from there, I went to Chicago, where we had the 4 best Holiday Inns in the world, which was a lie, Chris. We had the 2 best, and there were 2 close by, so we made it Chicago 4 city sales office. These were the days, if I called you up as a potential client, "Hey, it's Don Farrell, I'm calling from Holiday Inn," you heard, okay? "Hey, yeah, it sounds interesting. What's the name of your hotel again?" "The Holiday Inn City Center." "Oh, no. I don't take meetings to Holiday Inns. I go on vacation there." That was back then, okay? So we couldn't call ourselves Holiday Inn City Sales. We had to call ourselves the Chicago 4 City Sales Office. And when I'm talking to a prospect and I say, "Let's have lunch," we have a restaurant called Le Coq Rouge, French restaurant. "I'll meet you outside the hotel." Well, the reason I wanted to meet outside the hotel is normally they cabbed in, it was downtown Chicago. They would cab in, if they got out of the cab and they saw a Holiday Inn sign, they'd get back in the cab. Well, I'd have to stand out there going, no, come in. And it was basically a Hyatt with a Holiday Inn name on it. 2 of the hotels, gorgeous hotels. Mark Plaza City Center at the time. So I did Chicago 4 city sales for a while. Then I became a director of sales at my first hotel. Now, just so you get ready for this in your world, when I was at Chicago 4 city sales, we had $5-6 million to spend on advertising and marketing and all this other stuff. I show up at a Holiday Inn west of downtown, Oakbrook Terrace in suburban Chicago, and I'm on the job like 4 days, and we don't have any stationery, Chris. So I go to the general manager with a PO, and I say, "I need some stationery." He looked at it, and he put it back in the desk, and he said, "Come back next month. We don't have any money this month." "Wait a second, you don't understand. I need stationery to send proposals." "No, you don't understand. Come back next month." I'm like, wait a second. I have $5 million now. I don't even have $5 to work with, right? And I went back to my office like most people would do, and I'm mad, and I'm throwing stuff, and this is stupid. And after I calmed down, I said, "There's got to be stationery in this building." So about 7, 8 o'clock that night, I got the key to all the storerooms, and I checked every storeroom for stationery, and I never found any. But I'll tell you what we did find. We found about a bazillion Christmas placemats stacked. So what did we do? We took those placemats that they were white in the middle and they had all the frilly stuff around the outside, and we did a poem. This is like August, about booking your Christmas party at the hotel. And they thought we did that on purpose. We put them on Christmas placemats to tie into the Christmas theme, right? Well, we didn't have any paper. But what you realize is, and this is especially true in sales, some of the worst salespeople work in the best hotels. How does that make sense? Anybody have any idea?
Because they have more money to make mistakes.
They have more money to make mistakes. That would make them good, though.
They know people.
They know people. When you are working at a very 4-star, 4.5-star, 5-star hotel, you bring people in and you turn out to be a glorified tour guide. Baccarat crystal, hand-woven wool carpeting, custom made for us, china glass and silvers from, and you become a tour guide, and you're not selling. All you do is feature vomiting. When you work at a hotel where you don't have any stationery, now you have to be creative. Now you have to dig deep and say, either I'm going to be defeated or I'm going to figure this out. Couldn't have been the best place, couldn't have been any better place for me to cut my teeth in terms of how do you get creative? How do you fix things? How do you make things happen? At a 4-star hotel, you don't have those kinds of problems as often. Okay? We don't have staff at our Holiday Inn. We're understaffed and we need this and we need that. Well, you got to figure out how to make it all happen. So I learned a lot with Holiday Inns. Went to Detroit, did pre-opening sales. I'd never done that before. The hotel's not done. You're selling in advance. Okay? This was the year the Republican or Democratic National Convention was in Milwaukee and Detroit, sorry. And I was responsible for, ready? The state of Michigan was staying at our hotel. So this is a big deal. And as we get closer to our opening date, the district director and the GM come to me and say, you got to call up the Democrats and tell them they can't come. We don't have any rooms. We're not going to be done. I said, I am not doing that. You're going to finish this hotel. Are you telling me insubordination? La, la, la. I said, you call it what you will. But I'm not telling these people will not be ready. Tell me what won't be ready. And they said, well, our kitchen won't be done. So we would have to transport food basically half a football field away to the new dining room. I said, great, let's do it. Oh, no, we can't do that. Oh, it's too much work. No, we're doing it. So it went all the way up the ladder to a guy called Alan Kirkpatrick, who was the regional VP. We had 5 in the company. He was one of them. And he's from Boston. So he heard the story and he goes, Farrell's right, make it happen. Thank God. Well, you never know when a situation like that is going to come back 360 years later. What do I mean by that? So I'm in Detroit, do a year of that. Now I go to St. Louis. I become a director of sales of a 400-room Holiday Inn, meeting space for 1,200, 30,000 square foot holodome. Anyone ever hear the word holodome? They don't call it that anymore. It's an indoor recreation center. In effect, when Holiday Inns were first built, they were called U2s because it was 2 stories, U-shaped, and in the middle was a pool. That was your typical standard Holiday Inn. Well, the company would dome over the pool and put in exercise rooms and racquetball courts, which is Nerf ball like tennis and stuff, and all kinds of things, game rooms. So we called it an indoor recreation center, 30,000 square feet. And that was a lot of pre-function space for me. You got cocktail parties out there, you get to do a lot with that space. To this day, it's my favorite hotel I've ever worked in. We had so many weapons, Chris, it was so much fun. Having said that, you had Hilton in the market, big time presence. Marriott, whoa, Holiday Inn. Because they were that much nicer physically than we were. But we had to liberate business from those guys. And I would literally sometimes hang out in the lobby of the Marriott looking for customers to liberate. It's a nice way of saying to steal. And here's an example. I see a bunch of guys dressed in overalls. These guys work with their hands for a living. Turns out they worked at an alignment company where they built alignment machines for your car, okay? And I'm looking at these guys, and there's like 30 of them milled around, and they're incredibly uncomfortable because everybody's walking around in suits, and it's a nice place, and they don't know how to conduct themselves because they're not used to staying in hotels that nice. The company that put them there thought they were doing them a huge favor. You could tell they're incredibly uncomfortable. So I went to that company and I said, hey, look, I looked at your people. They belong in Holiday Inn. That's where they would feel good. No. My guys, Marriott's nicer. Well, let me do this. I said, let's do a survey and ask your people. I'll do the survey. Okay, great. Ask your people. And sure enough, they came back and said, we'd rather stay at Holiday Inn. So those are the kinds of things you did. And when you did stuff like that, you would get recognized. Remember that Alan Kirkpatrick guy in Boston? Well, I'm in St. Louis. I'm director of sales, been there 18 months. I'm ready to move on to the next gig. I've learned everything I can learn in this job. My own personal philosophy is this. I would look at myself in the mirror every month and go, Don Farrell, what did you learn in the last 30 days? And if the answer was nothing, whose fault is that? It's my fault. So now I'm going to work harder for the next 30 days to learn something. But at the end of that 30 days, which is now 60 days, I still said you didn't learn anything. It was time to move on. That was me, okay? No family, no kids, no anything, so I'm footloose and fancy free. And the position I wanted was the regional sales director for Holiday Inns, where you were based in Columbus, Ohio, and you had 80 some odd hotels you were responsible for, okay? I wanted that job. But the guy that was in there wasn't going anywhere. So now I'm interviewing other companies, and I land with a Regent Hotel Company, which at the time was 4.5, 5 stars, out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. I submit my resignation, 2 weeks. A week and a half into it, the GM comes to me and says, can you give us 30 days? We can't find a director of sales to replace you. I called up the job I said I would take and said, look, it's going to be another couple of weeks. Hey, we waited this long. We'll wait for you. Okay, great. I leave the hotel on the very last day, and I'm driving to Chicago because that's where my in-laws were. And I stayed overnight in Bloomington, Illinois, which is halfway between Chicago and St. Louis, company-owned Holiday Inn. And I stayed the night. A good friend of mine is the GM. I'm walking out the next morning. Hey, buddy, see, I don't know